Okay, so I wanted to do a follow-up video on CSS. So if you go into Dreamweaver, if you go to File, New, you can take a look at some of the page samples, and they give you basic samples for like CSS. So if I click Create, I can then look at the CSS code and see that with CSS you have a number of options. One, you can decide to redefine any tag. And so in this case, anytime someone uses an H1 header, it's going to be this color. And so you have that basic option. The other thing you can do is you can use CSS to create divs and basically create a layout and structure like we did before. But the other thing that you can do is you can create what's called a class. And so a class is really what comes up when you might have, for instance, a website where based on the color structure, you don't want all your links to be a certain color. You want them to be maybe in the navigation one color and a different color at other parts of the page. And so you might decide that you want to redefine the links in certain areas a certain color but not in others. And so that would be an example where you would use a class rather than a div, and rather than redefining every link to be a certain way. And so I'm going to try to show you real quick what that might look like. So in this case, if this background was blue on the left, I might want to actually have my links be, in that case, white. And so I could come over here and I just did home, but I can't see it. And so that's an example where I might want to create a class. And so if I actually come over here to the CSS tab, I could start going this way and I could see options I have, but right here I don't have any classes to apply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one. So I'm going to click over here and click on New CSS Rule, and I'm going to hit Class, and I'm going to call this Left Nav Links, or I could call it Menu Links. In this case, I'm just going to do it in this document. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to change, let's say, the color to white. And I might say I want it to have an overline and a underline. So I'm going to hit OK. So then if I go over to this and if I add a link, and I'm just going to put a pound sign, I can see that it's basically done that. And actually what I've done, and I lied, what I have to do first is I have to apply that class. So let's go down here and let's find that left nav class, and then that's how it works. But see over here, my links can still be blue, or the traditional color, whatever that is. And so that's basically how a class works. And so a class allows you to find exactly the way you want to define a tag in a certain way at a certain time. So rather than, for instance, if I know I'm going to have, let's say, a navigation menu that's on every page, rather than create specific divs within divs within divs, a lot of times it makes more sense to just create a class. And so if I look at my CSS, and in this case because it's embedded, I can scroll up and I can look that this is what the CSS looks for a class. And then if I go down and look at the HTML, I can see that I have my link, whatever that is, and then I have this class here. And so I could do the same thing with the headings. I could add an H1 heading over here that has a certain class, and maybe it's a certain size font, but then maybe my H1 headings over here might be a different one. And so that's the idea behind it. So hopefully that helps. I can definitely elaborate if people need to, but this would be examples where if I want to add, let's say, Nix buttons images, I might actually use a class rather than a separate div to control it, because I'm going to have that nixed and back button on every page. Well, then just setting up a class allows me to add that class whenever I want to. So a lot of times you will use divs and classes to set up your CSS, and then you might use basic selectors, which is just the basic type of CSS that's applied when you add basic things like up here to links. And so those are kind of the three main ways, as well as changing it in general. Thanks.